It's podcast time, boys and girls. December is upon us. I guess we did a show last week on December 2, and I think even the week before that, because I don't remember how math works. Hey, we're Almost Agreement, almost@gmail.com. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, on YouTube, we're on the website, favorite podcast provider, and hit us up there. Like, share, friend, follow, tell our friends about us, 5-star reviews. I'm really excited. On Monday, I get to go meet Timmy Burchett. And then I get to go full swing into the 2024 election cycle because it's going to be crazy. We got lots and lots of players. So, anyway, almostagreement@gmail.com, almostagreement.com. Check us out. Hit us up. Tell us things, all that kind of stuff. And we're going to do a show. All right, let's get on to business. Sam ain't feeling good. We got to get this. We got to get through all the shit we got to get through and call it a night.
Hi, Sam.
If you guys remember John from last week, John is back again.
Yes, I am John, and I am back.
That's what I just said.
I know. I was just agreeing with you.
I know, but okay.
Sorry.
Sam, how you doing, buddy?
I'm all right. How you doing?
You sound like shit.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you sound pretty sick.
Yeah. Even John noticed.
Like, your voice, it seems off. I can't, I don't know how to describe it, but it sounds off.
All right, John, let the cat out of the bag. We have an imposter. We have a fake Sam sitting in for Sam, and he just can't quite get the voice right.
Sure.
I'm working on it.
Yeah. I don't know, John. You wanted to sit in for a little bit. What's on the docket for you? What are you thinking about? What's been going on with you this week that you want to share with the people?
Something that's been going on, which isn't exactly the best, is Thursday. So yesterday, I was doing something, and then I was picking up like some cards, and then I bonked my head on a metal pole that was like right above me, and it was like the bottom of a whiteboard where markers would normally go, and to now my head still hurts.
Your whole head, or just the spot where you think
just the spot. Yeah,
it happens. Your head's kind of a big deal.
Yeah,
it's kind of important.
And like, if you hit your head too hard, you should most definitely make sure you don't have a concussion, because those things can be bad.
Concussions can be problematic. Repeated ones is when it gets real bad. But yes, the concussions are things you don't want to get. And if you do, you want to take care of yourself while you're on it. Rest easy. I don't know what the protocol is for recovering from a concussion. I don't know that there's any.
I'd say that you would have to be in like a hospital, and there'd be like, you'd have some sort of like medicine to. Sorry. You'd have some sort of like medicine to like make you feel better and like more numb, so like your brain doesn't like completely go overload, or like it doesn't hurt too much that it vital part of it gets broken.
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan, to not break it any more than you already busted it, for sure.
I want to say they changed the old adage of like, he used to have to say like, don't let them go to sleep.
Yeah,
I think doctors have finally said like, no, you can let them rest, as long as they're like not bleeding out of their ears. Or
yeah, I don't know. I like I said, I do not know the protocol for what concussion protocol is. They talk about it all the time in football, like
right.
And they'll bench guys and take them out of games, and they'll go into concussion protocol. But I don't know what they do to say, okay, well,
specifics. But I think it's kind of like checking their mental acuity and kind of testing for any kind of impairment.
What day is it? It's game day, coach.
After that, I mean, people at that level can afford to go get an MRI. Where
I mean, they've got the machines down in the in the stadium for most of the time.
Right.
It's got to be real serious for them to take a player out of the stadium. Like,
true.
Because they'll go get X-rays in the middle of a game and come back.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, I heard a pop. Well, nothing's broken. There's no ligament damage on the X-ray. You can go back and play if you want. Okay. And they'll do that in like 15 minutes between or during a halftime or something like that. So, college football is wrapped up.
Yeah.
Pro ball plays on Saturday this week, which is always fun. I like extra
yeah.
pro games.
The championship games already happened?
No.
Oh. Well, then
No,
is
we're
college
at-
football wrapped up?
Well, the regular season and the conference championships are wrapped
So
up.
there's still more bullshit to go through.
If you don't like college football, yes. I like I don't know, like all the coaching carousel and all that kind of stuff's already started, which drives me nuts about. That's one of the things I don't like about either pro or college ball, for that matter, is coaches getting hired away from teams that have bowl games or that are playing. Like, I mean, just a couple years ago, like 3 of Alabama's coaches, other than Saban, got hired out of Alabama between the SEC championship and the national championship game.
Damn.
And it's like, well, you can't finish your season,
Right, we're not done yet.
right? But I guess I don't know how their contracts and stuff like that work. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. You would think in the contract you play through a season, but
But I guess, I don't know if the contract would include postseason or if that's just
regular
that's just in
season,
bonus
yeah.
land or something. I don't know. So, but that always drives me nuts about college ball, because you get all these guys that go through a whole season, especially with like up and coming programs that have been struggling. You get a program that's maybe their first time in years that they've gotten to a bowl game because they haven't been that good, and this coach came in and turned them around, and they finally get to a bowl game and he skips town before he gets a chance to actually finish a season with his players. I always hate that.
yeah.
So, yeah, buddy.
What I'm going to talk about is, like, what if time travel, like, portals from, like, Rick and Morty or something like that were, like, a real thing?
I have a confession. I've never watched more than about 10 seconds of Rick and Morty. I've only seen, like,
all
clips
right.
on the Facebooks and whatnot.
Yeah, same with me, really.
I don't know. I don't know how time travel
Like-
would work. I in general, I don't know if I've told you this before, but it's a general statement to me. I don't like time travel stuff for the most part in movies and stuff like that,
Yeah,
because there's too much logical leap issues.
I get it. Like, if you were going to make a portal, in my opinion, I think that it would most likely have to be, like, this big, bulky machine which uses, like, futuristic tech, so it'd have to be in the future. And
See, but that's part of the problem with it, is that if it was developed in the future and it can go back in time, then you can bring the technology back with you, and then now
Yeah.
it's developed now, and then you can go back more. And so if
Yeah.
time travel could exist, then it already does.
yeah.
That's where I get stuck in the whole
Unless
paradigm.
these couple of years are just really crappy, and the people from
Nobody wanted to come back here?
yeah,
I
no
get
one
it.
wanted to come back here at this time. But yeah, I feel like if someone were to invent it, I feel like it'd take at least like a generation, I'd say. Well, like, not like family generation, I'm saying like a generation as in like every 100 years.
Okay. To do what?
To at least a generation, or whatever it's called, to build the machine and get all of the stuff working properly, as well as I think that they would need a pretty secure key. Like, for example, they'd put like 3 different keys. And
So but nobody could just walk up and use it? That's lame. I want to use it if they got one. Just because I don't have a key?
I'd say each one would be hidden in somewhere different. So if someone found a key, then then that same person would have a less likely chance to find the other keys.
Right. I get it. You'd want to make it extra secure so just nobody,
Yeah.
not anybody could just jump in there. I mean, like I said, I'm not, like, for the most part, time travel movies and stuff like that bother me. There's a few exceptions. Back to the Future, just because of its general ridiculousness,
Yeah.
was great.
I do like how they used a car as
The
the
car
time
was
machine.
fun.
Like, I feel like most movies that do time travel, they don't do cool stuff like the car or like anything like that. They mainly just do like a gun or a big bulky machine.
Yeah.
Those
Well,
are more
wasn't it last-
realistic, but they're less cool.
Yeah,
Was
hot
it-
tub time machine.
Wasn't it last year? October 17th, 2022 was where they go to the future in Back to the Future movies? Pretty sure it was last
I remember hearing about
October.
something that
Yeah.
recently.
It
Like,
was
hey,
Back to
here's
the
the
Future
day,
Day.
and blah, blah, blah.
And where are we? We don't have flying anything.
Yeah.
Although I did watch the new Grand Tour. They put a new episode of Grand Tour out. They only do it every once in a while now. It's just They only do it as the big specials. They don't do like the regular show anymore. And they did one where they did a random it was the Euro road trip that nobody thought to do. And it's like they're going through apparently there's a couple countries that a couple of the guys are banned from.
Oh, shit.
And so they couldn't go here, they couldn't go there. They started this project after the Ukraine war started, so they couldn't go through Ukraine. And so they're trying to pick this, and so they take this weird route like through Poland into Croatia. And apparently apparently Croatia historically makes a lot of cars. They've always made a lot of cars. Like in Europe, there are more cars built in Croatia than any other country. And apparently there is an engineer and a guy who's made 3 of these of a legitimate flying car. Like it's a car that can drive on the road.
Dang.
Goes to the airport, it folds these wings out, and it actually can fly. It's the first ever to do it and actually go from one airport to another. Any other attempts, it always takes off and lands at the same place.
I think I've seen a couple pictures or a couple videos of versions of it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't get it. It's like it's one of those. I love the premise, but it's one of those things to me that it's like it's not going to be a good version of either.
Right.
And I can't imagine the convenience getting there for either. You know, like there are certain things like, I don't know, a Swiss Army knife that's handy. Even though it's not a great screwdriver in your Swiss Army knife, in a pinch, it'll get the job done. That makes sense to me. But, you know, I don't know. The jack of all trades, master of none, I guess, is how I feel about flying cars, at least for now. I can see Honda's developing like a drone style one, apparently, that it's like the four propeller set, like a drone, like a toy drone.
Yeah, I've seen a few versions of them.
Yeah.
So there was one I think that was built in Japan that, like, the battery power just wasn't there. Like it would hover, but you couldn't get more than like 10 minutes out of it.
Yeah, because the batteries are so heavy.
Right.
And that's the problem with those. But yeah, apparently Honda's working real hard on that. Apparently Tesla and or SpaceX, I don't remember which one of Elon Musk is working on a battery powered airplane. But he's talked about how ridiculous the engineering is on it because of that. Go ahead, sir.
Someone made like actual like Iron Man type thrusters, but they use like power washers essentially, but like a lot more compressed, so it could actually like make him fly. And he flew over like, I don't know who it was, but I've seen it.
I've seen a few of those videos.
Times.
Yeah.
I just think it's insane that engineering has like gone so far that we can do stuff like that. Like, to be honest, we could technically become like Spider-Man or someone like that with how much engineering there is, because someone's already built like wall climbing engineering that can let you do that. And same thing with web slinging.
Yeah. There's been a lot, there's a couple of good YouTube channels that have guys that do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I've seen one guy do it entirely, and
excuse me.
I forgot what I was gonna say.
Yeah, I can't remember. Something Labs. They do a bunch of that. They did the Captain America shield.
Oh, Hacksmith?
Maybe. I think that might be with him.
It wasn't Hacksmith who I was talking about, because like Hacksmith, or at least I think that's their name. I forgot. I haven't watched them in a while. They've made some pretty insane stuff, like lightsabers that like actually work, and they sell miniature lightsabers, which I think's crazy. And like the newest one, apparently it comes with like different color changing parts that you can use. So like, if you don't want it to be red, you could change it to purple or green or something.
The Mace Windu, I like it. He was the purple lightsaber. Sorry.
Yeah, I like
Star Wars dork.
If I were to
you know what Star Wars doesn't do? Time travel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do bring people back from the dead sometimes, which does kind of bother me, but it's not my favorite.
Yeah.
But the couple times that they've done it are pretty awesome versions of it. But Palpatine and not Palpatine. I need to rewatch the new set of them. I haven't watched them.
I'd be curious to ask like an actual like astrophysicist that their whole like warp drive and stuff wouldn't kind of mess with kind of space time.
Yeah, I mean that's the total conundrum of space travel and time travel collectively to me. Like you can't do like Einsteinian physics to make it like near impossible. That's the whole E equals mc squared. The amount of energy you would have to create the thrust to go, the faster you go, the more impossible it gets, because the more energy you need to create the thrust, and so on and so forth. to a point of like it gets to a point where just like a decimal point, like 100,000th of a point faster costs 10 bajillion times more energy to get just that one extra tiny bit of speed over and over and just exponentially as it goes. That's the square part of it. Go ahead.
You know, like going in like Star Wars, they go like I forgot what it's called, like, but like they go really fast through the galaxies.
Yeah, they jump into hyperspace.
Yeah, that is not like, even if we had a rocket that could possibly do that, it wouldn't really work, because I believe it was, because I was watching a video about this earlier, and it was that time and speed, I believe, like share. Say time is 1 cup and speed is another. If you're like, and basically the faster you go, the more speed. I mean, no, the less time you have. So basically, the
right,
cup,
you take from one to give to the other, and
the cup that has time in it. Let's say it's half full. The faster you get in a ship like that, it'd be essentially like you're pouring the water in, and if you go that fast, it would just time would just completely stop for you, not for like the entire galaxy or whatever.
right. And again, that's the problem. That's the conundrum that is. It's fun to talk about.
Which that does also technically mean you could live forever-ish, because you could go in a speed state like that. And then what you could do...
Right, but your lifespan would probably be relatively the same to everybody outside of the ship that's speeding that fast.
I mean...
But it would just seem slower to you because you're going that fast.
Yeah, it'd either be... If you like, stop time completely for you, or, like, you had it go very, very slow, I feel like it either... You'd age and all that stuff, you'd go by like that, the same speed as everyone else, or it'd be like cryostasis, where essentially...
Yeah, you'd just be frozen in time, because time is frozen. Yeah, makes sense. Remember that that's one of our first episodes where you guys made fun of me, where, we used to teach kids everything they need to know on YouTube. Remember making fun of me for that?
No.
I remember you guys making fun of me for that. It's like, these kids learn anything they want to know on YouTube.
I mean, yeah, I do learn a lot of things on YouTube.
I just thought it just hit me while you were explaining the conundrum of hyperspace travel.
Yeah.
If only there was like books that would teach you that too. If we had some other kind of mediums
Can I
that
tell
had that same possibility.
Which way? I'm trying to think of something of an example that would make sense, because we've done it with stuff where we've had a hard time explaining a certain math thing to you, and we've gone and looked up a YouTube video to help explain it.
Yeah. Can I tell you the only reason why I knew that? So, there's this guy, and he's, like, really, really likes Futurama. And inside Futurama, there was a character, I forgot her name, but she was telling someone else that why are we going, like, 13 miles per hour when this ship can go to hyperspeed? And he explained why with that, like, water situation, which I think that's really, like, fascinating. That
Futurama did have some, like
Futurama
pretty smart people in the writers' room
the
that
smartest, like, writers.
I like Futurama a lot. I haven't watched any of the new. There's a new season that just come out on Hulu, and I've watched like half an episode. And they start out by making fun of the fact that they haven't done a new episode, like they're making fun of themselves in it. But I haven't quite gotten back into it. Like, of all the things, like when DVDs were the thing, you know what a DVD is?
Yeah, I know what DVD is.
That was a joke. I'm sorry.
I mean, maybe if I was born like 20 years in the future, I wouldn't know what DVD is.
Fair enough. But
I have like a TV that can play them.
It's true. You actually got that from Uncle Sam over here.
Oh, I did?
Yeah, he gave that to us when he moved from one house to another. The little Vizio TV that's got the...
Yeah, it's in my bedroom.
CD,
I watch...
Or it's got the DVD.
I watch YouTube on it like a ton.
Yeah, a ton. All right, anything else before you call it tonight? We appreciate you sitting in.
Not really. I just think that it's really cool that you can do all that stuff. that you can do so much.
It's amazing. Like,
with engineering, but at the same time, engineering can make you do nothing.
yep.
It's just mind blowing.
The moral of the story is it's your choice on what to do with it.
Yeah, like you could become a superhero. You could become a Star Wars person. You could choose to do anything. It's up to how you do it.
I can't think of a better way to finish your segment. I appreciate you coming on the show, buddy. It's good to see you.
All right, bye. It was fun.
All right, later, Tater.
Thank you.
All right, John, everybody. I always like to hear from him. He has some interesting thoughts. I didn't expect to go into time travel, but there we are.
I think we've talked about it a couple times, the kind of twin studies they did with Mark Kelly and
Yeah.
his twin.
Yeah. They were you two.
I can't remember which
They're
one.
alum here? Is that,
I wanna say
they
they-
have a Knoxville connection. I always get lost. I always forget what it is.
I want to say at least like one of them went to like grad school here maybe or something.
I mean, Josh Dobbs is a rocket science with a UT degree.
Really?
Yeah. Playing football in
Too bad he
Minneapolis.
just lost his job.
Did he?
Yeah, I think he just got let go, basically cut.
Yeah. That was his third team this season.
Was it?
Already? Or second? It was at least his second team. He started in Arizona this year.
I saw something where like a couple, whatever team he just went to, like both of their quarterbacks were like injured or whatever, and he came in and apparently did a kick-ass job.
Yeah, his first game in there. And I think we talked about it on here before. Like maybe the baddest ass sports quote of all time. Somebody asked him, it's like, somebody told me you don't know like half your teammates' names. He's like, I'll learn their names on Monday. I got a game to prepare for.
Yeah.
It's like, that's a badass quote. It's a good quote. Yeah, so let's see here. Planning Commission met this week in the stupid middle housing thing that, again, it goes back to my same issue that I've been bitching about forever. Nobody actually wants growth, except for the government, like the governmental entities that are quote managing them, and then like developers and the realtors want it. But as far as citizen population, nobody wants growth.
I didn't see what kind of timeline they put on it. I saw a couple stories about the middle housing. But I was like, yeah, is this like a 2028 thing? Like, we're hoping by 2028 to increase.
Well, it's like that's the thing is that what they're the long and short of it is it's just changing coding and zoning and permitting to make it easier for developers to do it. And so, like, it doesn't apply to this house, obviously, but assuming that I was in one of it's like the R1 in the city of Knoxville, R1 can now do duplex, triplex, quadplex, and neighborhood appropriate apartment buildings. Basically, is what the deal is. Not a lot of people are going to go buy an existing house, tear it down, and build a little triplex in place of it.
No.
You know, that's it. You could, and there could be money in it if you're the developer doing that, but especially with the market the way it is right now, you can buy it and sell it, or buy it and rent it and not have to do anything and make money, or buy it, tear it down, build something new, and then get it occupied to start making money. It's like, well, most people like you know, short of a house that gets burnt down on accident or the handful of empty lots that are available, I don't see, it's not going to be a huge impact on the overall inventory, as they say, of housing in the city of Knoxville. Yeah. I mean, that's just the long and short of it. Like now, it has to go to the city for the actual city council now. It's because it's out of Planning Commission, and Planning Commission didn't really like it. They just kind of passed it because they didn't really. They felt like it was. They felt like they kind of had to because of the mayor's proposals and stuff like that. And at some level, they felt like they have to because we do need the housing to open up.
Yeah.
But it seemed like Planning Commission was very unenthused, maybe for lack of a better word, about getting this thing through. And so now it goes to the city, where we'll hear a whole nother set of probably the same sets of people coming and speaking and saying this sucks or this doesn't suck.
I mean, it's like many of issues. I mean, there is no one real simple fix of like, hey, if we just do this one thing, that'll solve all the problems of housing.
Right.
It's a multi-tiered approach that's going to have to happen.
Yeah, it's got, and it is. It's got, and you know, and at the end of the day, I think so much of it is out of local control. I mean, I think the number one, maybe not the number one factor. Yeah, maybe the number one factor. I think the number one factor is probably interest rates. So it makes it so hard for people to buy. It makes it so hard for developers to develop. It's too expensive to borrow money.
I think they've talked about it for years. That just the actual construction of houses has not kept up with the amount we were producing like 15 years ago.
Right.
We want to pretend like this is this just happened in the past couple of years. We're seeing it more just because we've had a greater influx of people, at least in our area.
I think
we're seeing that shortage of houses, but I mean, like
state
overall,
state of Tennessee since the census has had more growth than the previous census, if I understood the stat correctly.
Yeah,
in the
we
past,
only do census every 10 years. So.
I know, but in the past 2 or 3 years, we've done more growth than in the 2010 to 2020 period.
Gotcha.
So in a third of the time, we've done more than what we did in 10 years. Yeah. If I understood the stats correctly. It wasn't put to me that way, but I want to say that's about where it was.
It's not too surprising.
It's pretty crazy. And apparently
It's crazy, but I'm not surprised.
I think, and like per capita or whatever, Knoxville is now the fastest growing municipal area in the state. Nashville's finally kind of leveled off, apparently. Or people gave up on trying to get in there. I don't know. I mean, half of Broadway was under construction. Not half. Like there were like 3 or 4 pretty significant construction projects on Broadway when we were down there.
I just drove down that way not long ago, or a couple nights ago. Looking all around, like, I don't remember that. I don't remember that. Because it's been so long since I've seen.
Oh, not our Broadway, Nashville's Broadway. I'm sorry.
Oh, gotcha.
When we were there, that's what I was talking about. But yeah, downtown's the same way here.
I guess I hadn't seen like 640 since they finally finished that clusterfuck, or at least it looks like it's done. And I'm like, this looks totally different. Just that whole interchange of where 640 comes off onto Broadway. They've been working on that for a long time.
Yeah. That's been for a while. But now they're on the past that they're redoing that whole stretch from 640 to the east side.
Yeah, they were digging up like the middle of the road.
Yeah,
they were going down like a good 4 or 5 feet.
Which I mean, when I was still at the old day job and I had to drive that stretch every once in a while, never had much traffic on it. And it's like 640 is so weird because it's like, yeah, I get it, but nobody uses it. Not a significant sum. Not on the east half, at least. Not many people go past Broadway. You get to Broadway, people get off at Broadway. But you don't go 640 from Paper Mill around town to get to Martin Mill.
Nashville Highway or something.
Right. I mean, even Martin Mill on, like I've done it where I've gone to Easttown and I'll go 40 through downtown and get on 640 on the other side to get off at the Martin Mill exit for Easttown Mall. Sam's Club, all that over there.
Millertown?
What did I say?
Martin Mill.
Martin Mill's the other one.
It's the one in South Knoxville.
What am I thinking of? Washington Pike? That's what I'm thinking of. Washington Pike. Sorry. Yeah. Washington Park and Martin Mill? No. Millertown. Yeah, sorry. That one. So anyway, this stupid middle housing thing is going. And again, it's going to pass probably. A bunch of people are going to pitch a fit about it. A bunch of people are going to say we need it, and there's going to be, whatever. But it's not like, the first of the year you're going to have a bunch of, city inside the 640, because it's all inside 640. It's all north of the river inside 640. That's the limitations of this new plan. And it's not like you're going to see a bunch of these single-family houses that are all spread out through there getting torn down and replaced. You will see some. Mostly you're going to see empty lots getting developed into triplexes and duplexes. But you're not going to see a bunch of demolition for it. And so it's not going to bring a lot of new inventory in. That's just the long and short of it. So it's not going to fix the problem per se. Which again, I will pitch my idea. It's like, what can we do to discourage people from moving here? That seems to be what everybody actually wants. And they're too chicken shit to say out loud.
I don't think that's what it is.
I truly believe that is what most people, let me rephrase that. I don't want to use that phrasing. Most people who go to meetings to speak against projects like this, who seem to be the most politically active people who aren't elected representatives themselves, I think don't want growth. Because the code word is responsible growth, and that's really just, what we think is responsible is going to exclude growth. You can't responsibly grow by most people who use that term. Well, flooding. Well, traffic access. Well, it's like, you can't. All those things are inherent with growth. We have to manage those as we grow. But at the end of the day, 20 more people live on the block. That's 20 more people commuting. And then it's like, we need better public transit. It's like, and especially in these neighborhoods, we have pretty decent public transit. I mean, the CAT bus system does pretty well inside 640. as far as I understand it, as far as coverage goes. And people don't use it, so I don't buy that excuse. Like that argument doesn't play to me either.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, people aren't using the public transit that's available. You don't want traffic. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I don't want traffic either, but I don't know how do we do this? We can't do this and keep affordable housing on the site. You can't have both arguments, I guess, as part of it too. It's like, well, people need to be able to afford the place to live in. It's like, well, if you don't have inventory, the price goes up. And if you're not willing to let people build, then the price goes up. And so, again, I'm not saying this is my argument. My argument is that this is most people's actual argument, is they don't actually want growth. And instead of pretending like we want growth and doing everything we can to stop it, why don't we have a conversation about how we can slow it down?
I would be curious if we can find out how many short-term rentals are actually in Knoxville.
It's out there. Well, if they're registered properly.
Right.
There is some complaint apparently that there's a number of people who are Airbnb in their houses or something like that don't have it registered as a short-term rental.
Yeah.
They have it registered as either a residence or a long-term rental.
Yeah. We're just out of town a lot. We'd like to travel.
I mean, theoretically, that's one of the arguments. I mean, that's one of the things that some people do. Like, you have people whose kids move out or whatever, and they do a remodel on their house and build a apartment in their basement.
Yeah.
And then they'll short-term rent that one, and it's like, well, yes. Or there are literally people who do what you're talking about and actually like, well, we're going to be out of town this weekend. We can rent the house and help offset some of the costs of our trip.
Right, but I think it's more so there are corporations that have been the biggest issues throughout the U.S.
Well, I don't know if I've heard a lot of that corp doing short-term rentals. I've heard of them doing long-term rentals, like just rentals.
Right, they're doing that as well, but I would say they'd make a hell of a lot more money doing the short-term rentals.
Yeah. But and I guess the Airbnb does all the logistics bullshit for you, so you don't have to fuck with it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I don't know. And again, it's one of those like, I don't know exactly how to navigate the supply and demand argument on how to fix that, because the only reason that works is if you're able to do what should be at least a long-term rental as a short-term rental, is because you have that many people that want somewhere to be. It only works in a consistent long-term fashion if you're a tourist destination, which Knoxville isn't really for the most part.
We're close enough to it.
I don't know that if I was coming in from Minnesota that I'd want to stay in Knoxville to go to Pigeon Forge Gatlinburg.
Well, no, but I mean, like I said, it still dumbfounds me how many hotels we have that stay afloat. And I'd say there's a lot of people that would much rather, book an Airbnb for 2 days versus...
I agree with that. I do. I agree with that. But, those are also people that are going to be renting on the weekends more than during the week and stuff like that. I don't know.
Come in town for business.
I would be an interesting book to look into somebody who's doing short-term rentals, like how consistently they're booked.
Yeah.
Like when the bookings are, where the pricing is, where the money's at. I mean, I would assume the weekends are more expensive anyway. Yeah. Can you get enough in total rent in a month if you only do 3 out of 4 weekends and that's it? If it's $120 a night for 6 nights a month, $720 or so, you could rent it you could probably rent the same house for $1,500.
Yeah.
And so like I would be curious to see what the math is. I guess is what I'm getting at.
I mean, I don't know how expensive Airbnbs are, but I would say that's probably really low end.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just making numbers up. I'm just saying. But I mean, I don't know. That's what you got to fight. But like, I mean, we got me and John there went down to Atlanta on a Saturday night and paid like $120 for a nice hotel in downtown Atlanta. Like almost to our detriment. We were right across the street from the aquarium. Like literally, we walk in the room and it was like a neon through the window of the aquarium's big screen that's on the outside of the building.
Yeah.
Thankfully, they turned it off after like 8 p.m. or something like that. I was actually thinking about, like, it crossed my mind. I was like,
I'm going to call somebody.
I hope they turn that off. That's going to be real bad at 9:30 when I'm trying to go to bed, even with the blinds closed. That's like, because it was like, I mean, it was literally like 30 feet from our window. Damn. It was like a 40-foot wide, super bright big screen.
All right.
Because it looks over, what is it, Bicentennial, what is the park? Olympic Park?
Centennial Park?
Yeah, the Olympics park thing that's down there. So
when they had a bomb go off on it.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Again, I think the totality of the conversation, again, this goes to one of my things that I kind of complain about the most is that we seem to only be able to entertain a very short list of options on how to solve a problem or how to discuss a situation, and nobody's willing to discuss certain parts of it, like we don't want growth. And I understand why, because the Tennessee Business whatever did their annual state economics report that they do, and the state of Tennessee is booming. It's booming less than it was booming as compared to years prior or whatever. Like it's I don't know. It's like the total GDP of the state of Tennessee only rose 6% this year as opposed to the 12% it did last year. But prior to the pandemic, it was like 3 or 4%, and so it's still considered a significantly great growth year. And a lot of that is attributed to how many people are moving here and stuff like that. And so
I'd say there's a good chunk that do want growth, because there are a lot of people that do rely upon, whether they're owners or employees of businesses, that are going to rely upon that steady, hopeful.
If they understand it. I mean, I do. Like, for me as a business owner, I want growth because that's more potential customers. That's an easy one. Do my employees understand that? No. Probably not. At least not in that direct relationship where it's like, well, I just don't want the house next door to me to get turned into an apartment complex. Well, I respect that you don't want that, but because it goes to that same thing I argue about all the time when we talk about growth. It's like the NIMBYs, the not in my backyards. It's like, well, it's got to be in somebody's. And if you're not willing for it to be in your backyard, then it shouldn't be in anybody's backyard.
I mean, I've noticed some increased traffic in certain areas at certain hours, but I don't say overall it's not horribly worse than what it's been the past 20 years that I've been driving.
I will
around.
say,
I used to work in Maryville, and Alcoa Highway, anytime during any kind of morning rush or afternoon rush,
it gets a little backed up. Yeah, I'll say the one that I noticed the most that I feel like there's a significant change is that stretch between Alcoa Highway and Paper Mill coming out of town in the afternoon, and I mean in the afternoon period, not like 4:30 to 7. I mean like 2. It starts at 2:00. Like I'll leave. Like there's been a couple times where I've left our central location to either come to our west store or come home at like 2 or 2:15, and I get off at 275 onto 40 going west, and it is already stopped. And so I'll get off on Alcoa, I'll get off on Alcoa and then go Kingston Pike.
Yeah, I mean when I was driving around a lot for work 3 or 4 years ago, at right about 3:00, I try to be away from downtown, because even at 3:00, just coming out of downtown, trying to head west or whatever, or even kind of coming into downtown, it was already backing up.
Right. No, I mean,
it's 3:00. I'm not going downtown.
I 100% agree with you. I'm just saying what I have noticed is that 3:00 is starting to roll up to 1:30, 2:00. That whatever it is, and it may be some of that 640 construction too, that people are not taking 640 around town on that side, going that direction because of that construction or something like that. I don't know what it is, but it certainly seems to be more earlier than it used to be. It's the same stretch. It's always slowed down. It's just more. And I never quite understand why either, because it's like...
I don't remember being horrible. What was it, like 8 or 10 years ago when they were working on 40 right there downtown, where pretty much if you were going east, you had to get off on 275. Like they pretty much stopped it right there as they were doing that whole, I guess, like the Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame, yeah. Yeah, that was
like
a big...
The interstate literally ended. They were like, nope, you got to go that way. Yeah. Go all the way around. I don't think it was ever specifically horrible for as much traffic, kind of goes through that whole stretch.
Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely, like I said, I definitely I've started to notice that specific difference in what I attribute to growth. I mean,
I would say to an extent we blow it out of proportion a little bit more than it is. And
but
I said, nobody likes traffic.
And then like, I don't know, and this is something when I'd get Jennifer Owen on and I want to talk to her about, it's like, well, realistically, if this voucher thing goes into effect, it actually might be a bonus to the school system, because it's going to slow down the massive growth that the school system's going through.
Say again? What?
Because if the vouchers come in and people start pulling for the vouchers, which is realistically same as our middle housing thing, it's like not a ton of people are going to be taking advantage of the voucher thing when it goes into effect next year.
Right.
Well, next year, yes, the total that they're 10,000 statewide will be certainly taken up. Period. All of them.
Is this
the first year?
In
they're
the thought of traffic. I don't get what you're talking about.
I'm sorry. Going back to growth in general.
Okay.
That if people are picking private schools and taking the vouchers to send their kids to private schools, I would think that with the growth that we've seen, it actually is going to keep Knox County schools probably fairly level or slow growth in schools. Because theoretically, the growth should be the same proportion or a ratio compared to the number of people. So if 100 people move to town, that's 10 more kids in the school system, something like that. If 200 people move to town, it's 20, and so on and so forth.
That's one thing I haven't really seen as far as like what kind of like age demographic are moving to Tennessee.
Yeah, I know that's.
Is it more retirees or is it
really
more young adults that are trying to start a life or whatever?
I do know that California is the number one import. People leaving California coming here. And so they did it both ways, like people that are leaving Tennessee and where they're going versus states they're coming from or whatever. And Florida is number one on both lists, which is kind of funny.
People leaving and going.
Yeah. So I think it's like 2,000 more people moved to Tennessee from Florida than people that moved to Florida from Tennessee. So like 15,000 people moved to Tennessee, 12,000 people moved to Florida.
Right.
So a net plus 3,000 in our Florida exchange. But then I think I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I misspoke. California is number one on the import list. We brought more people from California than any other state. But Florida was number two, and that's and number one in export. And so I don't know. That doesn't necessarily tell us anything about the demographics per se. But at least the California side says that they're coming from even though Tennessee is starting to catch up or surpass national average on cost of a lot of things, housing specifically, California was still well above that.
Right.
And so even though we are not cheaper than average, we're still way cheaper in California for housing.
Right. Than considerable amount of the U.S.
Yeah.
Kind of downside of the internet, it's like cheap places to live. I'm like, I'm sure we're top 10 on that list, or at least states.
And that was the thing I actually asked Scott, because Scott was the one that did the report on this report from the Haslam School of Business or whatever, is if there's any breakdown on income sources for imports. Because I don't know, like we've heard a lot, everybody talks a lot about how like during the pandemic everybody got this virtual work or this hybrid work format and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, sounds cool, I guess.
There's a good bit of, well-to-do people that moved in, that were living in California or a Western state.
Well, my question is
$200,000 and still like barely being able to afford like their house and mortgage. And they're like, yeah, I could go to Tennessee and live like a king almost. Not literally, but.
You're pretty close.
I worked with a guy years ago who was in like Jersey. I want to say his house was a decent sized house. It was like, for almost $500,000. But he was able to get that same house here for, damn near half the price. And have lower cost of living with, power, etc.
Yeah, that's something you've said a couple times, and I trust your word on it, I suppose, is that we're just plain cheaper for power.
For a lot of, for power, definitely, just because we get subsidized by TVA or with TVA.
But that's the other thing. I'd be curious where on the cost of living spectrum we are, other than housing. And then back to my original point of,
we don't have state income tax, so a lot of people, enjoy that.
Yeah, for sure. But I was thinking, I was kind of thinking more along the lines of like, if you got these people coming from California and they're virtually working, that is like 100% economy booster. It's 100% economy booster because they're bringing
depending where they're spending their money.
Yeah, that's that. Yeah, if they're. But either way, if they bought a house here, they're buying things here at some level. They're spending money here at some level. They're paying property tax here.
We've had a large influx of people just online ordering.
Yeah, but at least for Amazon, most of the big players, you have to pay the tax for the state you order from.
Yeah, you're getting sales tax.
That's what I'm saying. So so the money isn't coming from within the state. But it's getting spent in the state. Is the point
of the tax is coming back to it.
Do what?
But part of the tax is coming back to
right,
it.
And that's the point I'm trying to get to. That's an automatic, significant growth boost because
I'm saying we're losing out because they're not buying local products as well.
I mean, I'm not. I agree. It would be better for everyone, specifically local businesses, if people bought the same items or similar items from a local purveyor as opposed to online. But from a state economics point, is if you're paying the sales tax, you're paying the property tax, you're paying the wheel tax, you're paying all these other taxes that the state levies, but that money is not coming out of a local business. It's only going into either the state or local businesses. It's a different. It's like why you pay you pay different taxes on income tax federally if you made money from foreign countries than you do locally.
Right.
Like a lot of times it's less than because that is the source of that. If the source of that funding isn't local, it actually has more value in an economy than if it comes out of the economy to be there in the first place. Like if I give you $10 and you spend $10 right here, that comes out of the economy at one point because it came out of me. Where if somebody from Texas gives you $10, there's no negative in that equation locally. Is kind of what I'm trying to get to. Because if you're working remotely, maybe a better way to do it is if you're working a job in California, right, and you're getting paid $100,000 a year in California to do that job, and that job goes virtual, and you take up and you move to Tennessee, you're still making $100,000 from that job that you would otherwise be spending in California and online, but in California, as a resident of California, you're now spending here. But that money is still coming out of a California payroll system or something like that. And so you're not taking a job away.
So payroll is now considered a negative upon state economy.
I'm not explaining this very well.
I'm just not understanding.
You're not replacing another person in the workforce locally. You're not taking a job from another Tennessean when you came to Tennessee. You're still working,
right?
But it didn't also come with any costs of that business coming along with it and stuff like that. There's I don't know. I'm not explaining it well. My point is that it's bonus money because that money didn't originate here. It's bonus economy because the origination of the funds didn't start here. It's an import of money, of literal money from out of state.
Kind of get that idea, but I just don't see that being a large part of either growth or detractor from state economy.
I know California was trying to pass a law that said we still get your California income tax even if you left on people like that. I don't think they can legally do that, but they tried to figure out if they could or not.
I would think it kind of would be. Because, when you do your taxes, it's like, did you receive money from work in any other state? If your business is still based in a separate state, I would think you would still pay income tax in that state.
But you pay income tax as a resident of the state, not as an employee of the state, I guess is the argument. And I would think the other side, too, for California, you're like, well, we're getting payroll taxes and stuff out of these people, but you get laid off. We're not paying unemployment. Well, that's a federal tax anyway. Never mind.
Yeah, I don't know.
That doesn't make any sense. I don't know what state. We don't have a lot of state payroll taxes. I'd have to double check on that. Oh, speaking of, I had a little crazy conundrum with payroll today.
Yay!
Not my favorite. Stupid error. 9/11 and 12/11 were sitting next to each other, and 9/11 got processed again instead of 12/11. So I paid people that don't work for us anymore. Didn't pay people that have started working with us since then. It was a mess. Everybody swear. Went through the whole thing. It's still Friday. Everybody got paid. Just a bit of a headache. Not my favorite, but
people are happy.
Yeah, well, I don't know. The bottom line is we promise you get paid on Friday. You got paid on Friday.
Right.
Yeah, we've covered our legal bases because that's one of those things. Federal law says you have to state when payday is and also have to pay people on said stated payday. And so a stupid mistake. Don't get me wrong. My fault. I made it was completely my fault. It was a dumb mistake to make. But it is now fixed. So moving on.
Yeah.
Middle housing. Apparently they're going to do a lot of stuff down in Magnolia. There's a lot of projects going on in Magnolia right now. Which, that's cool, I guess. That's the only really direction you can go in the city proper that you can really get some significant growth out of. You can still work on the south side, but the south side's coming up pretty quick, or trying to. I still don't know if I believe in that long term. The south side always feels like South Knoxville is a different city to me than Knoxville.
Really?
It always felt like that. It always felt a little bit more redneck. It was either student.
Yeah, I think more so like the north side feels like a different. Like the Powell area. You're still in the county, but it doesn't really feel like Knoxville.
Yeah, but most of Powell and Halls aren't in the city of Knoxville proper.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think... I mean, outside of 640, I don't call the city of Knoxville, even though a lot of it is. To me. Well, actually, I take that back. I call all of it the city of Knoxville. Like, Farragut is not, because it's actually technically a separate township.
Right, but a lot of people still consider that.
And I do too. I like it. And like I said, I still think this is the right long-term move for the citizens of this general area. Is we need to go metro. We need to consolidate this into one total government. Get rid of the township of Farragut. Apparently, the inference I've gotten from a number of people is that the state of Tennessee will not. I'm sorry, Knox County will not approve another charter in Knox County. So, we have neighborhoods, Halls, Powell, all that kind of stuff. But if Powell wanted to incorporate as its own township, like Farragut, no way. There was not, if it had been a few years earlier, if it had been a few years later, Farragut wouldn't have been able to become its own township.
I don't really know when they became a town.
It was like the 70s. It was a while ago, I think. But
I hear about it before. We were going to the game in Nashville. It was looked more like a heavy duty kind of ambulance. It was a little bit bigger, almost kind of like one of the larger fire rescue trucks. But it was
like an armored car.
What's that?
Looked like an armored car a little bit.
Kinda, but I swear it said it was like fire, ambulance, and something else. So it was part of their metro thing. I was like, I don't think I've ever seen ambulance, fire, all in one. I would
assume that Nashville has it. Well, I don't know. I've heard some different stuff, and I need to do some research, I suppose, especially if I'm going to pitch Metro as the plan. I've heard that Nashville has a division inside itself. So you have Metro Nashville, which is all of Davidson County, and it's all included in Metro Nashville. It's one government per se, but they have it district. They have it. They have They have their downtown district, and then they have their other. And so there's downtown residents get certain services that. Not dissimilar to Knoxville.
Right.
So if you live in the city of Knoxville, you get trash pickup. If you live in the city of Nashville, you get trash pickup. But if you live in greater Nashville, you don't get trash pickup. If you live outside of the city of Knoxville, you don't get trash pickup. That kind of stuff. Is it getting worse?
No, they're still losing. It went from they were losing 2-1. Now it's 5-4. I was like, that's a lot of goals.
That is a lot of scoring. So I don't know. I guess if I'm going to keep pitching Metro, I should do some more research on some different processes of places going Metro. I just think we're I think Knoxville's with the inevitable growth that we're going to insist on doing because we refuse to say no. I don't know what we're waiting on. Well, I know what we're waiting on. Politics. I mean, it's the reality of it. That's the truth from what I've been told by people in the know. It's that it's not that the premise of Metro is a bad idea. It's that Knox County is a red county. City of Knoxville is a blue city.
See, I wondered if some of the politicians themselves were worried about kind of being phased out, that they would lose some of their power.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. The county commission, I guess, I don't know exactly how that works. Because the county has to exist. But then since it'd be Metro, it would be some Metro Commission Council combo. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a combo. It could just be the commission, period. Or a new charter would be written that would include it. It would make it like a 20-member or a 21-member that would, combine the two bodies as they currently exist into one, or some division thereof. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, the city of Knoxville does not want to give the city government of Knoxville does not want to give its authority over to Knox County. And Knox County doesn't want to permit the city of Knoxville to expand to take over its authority either. There's no but again, it's a political fight. It's a border war, for lack of a better word, more than it is about what's best for me and you. Because nobody's given me the argument on why it's not good for me and you as a resident. They just give me the, well, like I can't remember who said it. Well, if Mayor Kincannon was the mayor of the new Metro Knoxville, I'd be on board. But if it's that Jacobs dude, I don't want anything to do with it.
So I was about to say, it kind of depends on your viewpoint, to where, one would say in their heart and mind that they don't want that for their constituents,
right?
For this or that.
Have you asked your constituents? No. And I would say that, I guess the curiosity that we get to see this year, District 4 right here in my neighborhood, Matt really thinks they have a shot at. And I guess Scott and Jesse do too, as far as their analysis of the shifting patterns of District 4 voters over time. And it's like, okay, we'll see. I've got to see who these candidates are. We've got Garrett Holt and one in the Republican primary and a Democrat running. So we'll have a full slate for District 4 of options. And it's like, well, Cat Bike won as a Democrat in school board. And it's like, yes, technically that's true. But I don't know if that really signifies a shift. I don't know if I feel like that signifies a shift. But, also Todd did fairly well, and Todd was not a good candidate. I like you, Todd. I'm not saying I don't like you, but you're in Kentucky, so you don't count anymore anyway. But I don't know that Todd was not a particularly good candidate, and he actually did do fairly well.
Yeah.
He still got blown out, but not like Democrats had run in District 4 in the past.
Right.
So there is obviously a little bit of a swell of actual Democrats in this district. But I don't know. We'll wait and see. I'll meet him and talk to him. I'll tell you who I'm voting for when we get there. But I don't know if I buy it yet. I could see the eventuality of it. Going back to the Metro part of it, if county commission actually starts to be, what did Matt say, a 5, it's 11 members, so a 6-5 body, back and forth for a couple of years, a couple of cycles. We have a majority 6-5 Democrat county commission, or we get into like a 7-4 or something like that over time. If both the city and the county elected bodies start shifting to the same party, it could increase the likelihood of my Metro pitch, because then it's no longer a philosophical change when you combine the governments. It's just a structural change.
Right.
So we don't have to worry about the philosophical change all of a sudden of it being, well, City of Knoxville is now run by a Republican.
I'd say you're looking at least 10, 15 years out, because I think you're probably one of the only semi-vocal people that are actually pushing for it. And I think without that, you're without enough people behind it.
Oh no,
it's a long battle.
I don't. It's not a winning electoral issue. Right. Like you can't. Vote for me. I'm going to bring Metro in. It's like most people don't. Most people don't understand don't know that they're city or county residents in the first place.
True.
They show up to the polling station and get the election, and they vote. They don't know that they're. It's an odd year. It's an odd year. I really don't. I really think the majority. Actually, that's not true. The majority of city voters probably know what they're doing, because there's only like 500 of them that bother doing it. But I would say, especially in county races, especially in this 24 cycle with the crazy total ballot that we're going to have, Burchett's on it, Blackburn Gloria race is going to be on there. We're going to have so much on this ballot that a lot of people aren't going to know anything.
Possibly.
There's of all of the local races, there's one unopposed, and that's a judge race. But every single one, a couple of them have primaries on both sides for once, instead of just a Republican primary. We have some that have Republican. I think one of them has 5 Democrats. I think it's District 1 or 2. District 1. I think it's District 1. County Commission has 5 Democrats
running for the one seat
on the primary, and then a Republican on the other side of that ticket. It's crazy. Let me look it up. I'm gonna make sure I'm not crazy, but it was Knox County election. It was like 4 or 5 people on the primary only, not on the ballot total, but just on the primary.
I'm trying to remember exactly who it was. I want to say it's like the State Bar Association or whatever. Did you see that after the election, they purposely waited till after the election to actually just kind of like, I guess, in a written, I forget what they call it, not condemnation, but They wrote a letter saying, that what Ronson did did violate the ethics.
Oh, on the no, I didn't hear that. Of course it did. And they waited until after the fact.
Right. Well, I mean, I'd say they didn't want to, come out and be like, oh.
Well, it ends up being political, even though it's honest. All right, so it's
of it possibly swaying the race because they came out.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
There was no, I don't think there was any recourse to it. Right. It was more of like an official hey, we are saying that yes,
we see that, and yes, you did it wrong.
Stupid.
All right, so to correct my previous statement, it is County Commission District 5. There are 5 Republicans and 1 Democrat. So I misquoted the district and which party had a crazy amount of people running. But Brad Hall, Angela Russell, Dale Skidmore, Tony Scott, Brian Walker. District 5 is not Sequoia Hills, Hardin Valley, I think. I'd have to check my math on that. Then District 8, you have 3 Republicans in that primary. And then, the more traditional 2 V2s. And I will want to quick shout out to my most favorite Jennifer Owen for having the nuts to run as an independent, even though she's pretty clearly a Democrat. I don't think I'm mischaracterizing her by saying that. I think she is a Democrat, but she thinks that partisan school board races are dumb, and she's sticking to her guns, and I appreciate that. I look forward to talking to you, Jennifer, more about vouchers coming up soon. If you guys are Compass people, they did an interview with her, not on their podcast, but they did an interview with her and did a long story on the voucher stuff and some of her points and parts and pieces and why vouchers suck.
Get one other independent.
Yep. Also running against Jennifer in District 2. Yeah. So neat, fun, and fun functional fact, everybody, is that there will be 3 people on the ballot in that race, no matter what. There is no primary because the Democrat always automatically gets one. There's no Republican, and independents are automatically in the general. Unless some of these people quit by Thursday. We are in that window where they can quit and pull their name. Andre, I can't remember his last name. Captain Holt from
3000?
No, Captain Holt from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. He died this week. I was really bummed out. Yeah. I don't know why I just thought of that, but I just did.
I think it was lung cancer.
Yeah. Bummer.
Yeah.
It sucks. I liked him. I loved him in that show. I love that show in general.
Great actor. It was one of those actors I never really knew his name. Saw him in a lot of stuff, but...
Yep. But, anywho, didn't mean to bring us down with that part of things, but...
Way to go, bro.
I am a little disappointed in Mr. Keith Britt. Keith Britt promised me he was running for District 4 County Commission, and Shane Jackson is, as reported by Matt Shears when he was here, but Keith didn't turn his petition back in. Little bummed, Keith. You promised me a year ago, maybe not quite a year ago, but a while ago, that you were running for that seat. And I was really excited to talk to you about it, but alas, here we are.
I wonder if Liz Tombras is a part of the Tombras Group, the advertising firm.
That's a good question. I'm curious if Angela Russell is...
Russell Stovers?
No, who am I thinking of? Never mind, I've blacked out. No, I'm doing it backwards. Russell Bivens. That's what I was thinking.
I didn't think he's on the news anymore. I think he got out of it, yeah.
Yes, I saw him at the Christmas parade. He was hanging out, just watching the Christmas parade. He lives right around here.
He used to come to a restaurant I worked at years ago.
Yeah, his wife was our preschool, was John's preschool teacher. One of John's preschool teachers.
I thought the camera added weight, but the camera didn't need to add weight to him.
He's a big boy.
Yeah.
He was. I mean, he had the fun.
He was a big guy.
Job, yeah. So I'm looking forward to it. Law director is going to be an interesting race. I would argue, honestly, that that is probably I would say it's an arguable tie for the most powerful person in county government. I'd say you have the sheriff, you have the mayor, and you have the law director.
Daniel Herrera's trying to unseat David Buck.
Mm-hmm. Which I don't know. I don't know Herrera as a lawyer. I know him as a county chair, but I certainly don't like Buck. his office won't give me shit. Been trying to get a hold of him for a bajillion times. So I can't even remember all this stuff. Like, I had a whole list of questions. It's like, I don't understand the law on this. Can you help me out?
Right.
Kind of questions that I wanted to talk to him about. And I don't remember what all they were. But I know I had like a solid 3 hours of stuff that I wanted to talk to him about. And he would not. I got nothing from his office.
Just reach back out to, what was the name? The Public Defender's Office.
Lytton?
Yeah. Eric, yeah.
Yeah. He's got 4 more years. That's an 8-year ballot, so he's got a while. But I wouldn't mind talking to him. He's fun to talk to.
Yeah.
I told you about Miss... I forgot her name. She used to be a News Sentinel reporter.
No idea.
She got fired from News Sentinel because she lost her shit at an Anderson County Commission meeting because they were trying to build a park on top of some old nuclear waste site. And she'd been doing, like, she was there as a reporter. She'd done a big, long report on, like some Aaron Brockovich kind of shit.
Right.
That she was doing on this, and like the commissioners are voting to approve the building of a park on top of this stuff, and she's like, "You're gonna kill some fucking kids with this shit." Like she lost her shit in this meeting. And I think that's what got her fired.
I think I remember seeing something about that, but
yeah, she works for Letton's office now. Wow. She came out here as a public defender to speak to me with issues with my neighbors.
Nice.
And I gave her my card. I said, "Hey, I want to talk to you on my podcast. Mm-hmm. I think it'd be cool." And she's like, "Yeah."
Yeah, I thought there was also something kind of like with Bull Run and the park that was right next to it, and
that might have been the story. I don't remember.
Contaminants.
That Anderson? That's Anderson County, right? Or is that still Knox County? Bull Run's on this side. No, it's on the other side of the river.
It's got to be on the other side.
That's Anderson County. Maybe that's exactly the one she was talking about.
Well, I think I'd heard also of like some kind of like nuclear waste that was getting tested, but
Bull Run's about to shut down. They're about if they haven't already, they're shutting it down.
Yeah,
if they haven't already.
I've seen a little bit about that.
They did. The Nuclear Energy Commission did approve the mini reactor build that we were talking about last week.
Yeah.
So that's a go. Sweet. Build a bunch of them. Build them all. Build them everywhere. Build one in my backyard. I don't give a fuck. I mean, yeah. I mean, my brother lived on a sub 3.5 inches away from that thing. I mean, he's my brother, and so he's not super smart, but he's not any dumber for it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I love you, bro. I'm just kidding. I don't think he's picked up anything. I don't know. We could ask anybody in the Navy, who did any sub or...
I mean, that's one kind of weird thing about a lot of this stuff is it takes years before you ever see, like, asbestos and shit like that, like... black lung. I mean, it literally takes years to finally like show things, so it's kind of hard to like go back in time and be like, "That's what caused it." It's like,
yeah, but the U.S.
I don't know. That was like 20 years ago. You can't say
it's U.S. government, so who knows if they're telling the truth or not? To be fair, but the U.S. nuclear sub program has been around since the 80s.
Right.
I haven't heard any reports of a bunch of seamen getting weird cancers from being on subs. We would know about that by now.
Well, no, I mean that's why you have rotations anyway.
I mean, so like my dad's doctor all but guaranteed him that he got his lymphoma from Agent Orange.
Right.
And you got all the guys from Afghanistan and stuff that are getting paid out for the burn pit shit. You know that story?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was trying to think if there was much talk, because they also did it in Desert Storm was the one in the early mid 90s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was some of the same stuff.
Apparently, that's just standard military practice, and it's been that way for a long time, and they didn't think about it, which I get. I mean, on a practical, functional basis, I get it from their end, not putting any thought into it.
Well, I can see you not putting any thought into it, but it seems like a bit common sense. Like you're burning shit, you're downwind from it, you're breathing in everything that you're burning.
Well, yeah, but you also don't give a shit about the people that are.
I mean, how many people stand around a campfire? I mean, do you like standing whenever that smoke's blowing in your face?
It's pretty rough when it gets right in your face. But anyway, I don't know. It is possible that my brother will end up with some weird cancer because he was on a submarine for a long time, but doubt it. Moral of the story is build them everywhere. Build them all the time. If you want to get off this fossil fuel teat, that's the way to do it. I like it.
Disagree, but
I don't think we can get there eventually, but I don't like. Solar is not up to it's not up to speed yet. It's not economically functional comparatively.
How so?
You can't produce enough consistently enough to take over what is currently coal-fired for the most part.
Correct, yeah. 100% solar, yeah, no.
That's what I'm saying.
It's going to take a collection. I mean, just like we have coal and nuclear and natural gas and hydroelectric.
And solar.
And solar.
Right. But I'm just saying, the quickest way to get off of the coal and solar, or not coal and solar, coal and natural gas and other fossil fuel burning versions is to get into some of this nuclear stuff that's already available.
It's going to take a collection of power sources.
I agree.
I'd like to see more geothermal.
I think that's very location dependent, though, to be effective. Isn't it like you need to be in a place where it's more accessible?
I mean, we have seismic activity here, so I mean, you don't have to go down too far to get. I mean, even if it's just geothermal, like heat pumps for housing, to where literally all you've got to go down, I think it's like 50, 100 feet or so.
Really?
It depends on what you're using it for. If you've got like just a heat pump to where you're keeping just that constant, temperature, you don't have to go down too far to get that constant temperature that's not too cold, not too hot. But as far as like producing power, no. There is geothermal where you can produce power from that, where you are using, I guess, like superheated water that's further down.
Yeah, I don't know.
As far as like smaller, like residential heating and cooling, HVAC type issues.
That's an interesting one that I just don't feel like there's been enough. I haven't seen enough talk about it as a functional.
I mean, you are right. It does take some location to it, depending on, like I said, I think if you're actually trying to go for power, get Yellowstone.
Right.
That is a
Old Faithful's been doing that thing for a long ass time.
Maybe we'll release some pressure. Maybe it'll be a good thing.
Right.
Could be a bad thing
or
as
maybe
well.
It blows the shit up.
Right.
Because that's a civilization killer right there if it goes off, like, for real.
Depending on how bad, yeah.
Yeah. So
a lot of people talk about a combination of wind and solar in small areas. I've seen farms that have done it.
Yeah, and I mean, I maybe that's probably a better way to pitch it. I think the easiest way for us to get there is to get it to dismantle the grid per se, as far as self-sustaining locations. Like I think if the government wanted to do anything about it, they would reinstitute and advance some of their some of the solar programs they've had in the past, where you can get a big tax credit if you put solar panels on your house.
Right.
I would say Knox County and the city of Knoxville have pretty strict zoning against me putting a windmill in the backyard. I was told by an engineer that I know he's like, if you ever wanted to do something in Knoxville, if you wanted to go green for your house, a windmill is the way to do it. You'll get more.
Yeah, they make pretty small ones that you just put on top of your house.
I would.
But I mean, the actual like blades themselves are like 2 feet diameter, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know what Knox County's regulation is on that if I was to do it here.
Right.
But I bet you the city of Knoxville will let it happen. I would say that's against code in the city.
I would say with the amount of sway that TVA probably has, they're not big on it. I'd say they were probably one of the big pushers that
says nope. Yeah.
That cut out the incentives.
Right. If you want us to go alternative powers, then we are controlling it. We're going to put this solar yard over here by the health department. We're going to use our dams. We're going to do it our way. I mean, which is unfortunate.
They cut the incentives, and we never really ramped up our actual production in the U.S. I want to say a lot of solar panels were still relying upon China for at least some of the components of it.
Yep. Yeah, and I think
we advanced it pretty far. I mean, we literally have, it's almost like cell phones, where we have flexible screens that can still be used.
A buddy of mine had one, and it was just a little power block for his phone. It was about the same size of his phone.
I wanted to get one of those, yeah.
And it's like
you've got to leave it out in the sun for a good little bit, but
he's like, it doesn't do a ton, but if I'm out camping or whatever, going out on a hike or whatever, I hook it to my back of my bag so it's facing up, or I leave it at camp in a sunny spot. And I can get a few days with. I take it fully charged. I charge it at the house before I leave. But he's like I never kill it. It always is above when I left it. And so it's like I'll use it at night, use it to power my flashlights and stuff like that, and then charge it through the day, and it usually gets me through most of it for a weekend at camp or something like that.
I've seen some that are just like a thin sheet that's like, 1 foot by 1 foot. You can kind of put on your backpack. That's a little solar cell, and you can plug in whatever you want to, that power bank or whatever.
Yeah.
And also ones that are, like 2 or 3 inches that you put into a stream that's like a little water
those
hydrant
are pretty
thing.
neat. Yeah, those are pretty neat. I've seen those. And I think the other thing, too, and I think it's the other thing that's truly holding back the whole subset of the industry is storage.
Lobbyists? Oh, sorry. Yes.
I mean, on a practical sense, storage. No, yes, right. Lobbyists and the people who are currently making money controlling the thing. But the storage is the biggest issue. Because, I mean, like for some of the house stuff, and that's one thing Tesla did develop that nobody really talks about on all the different shit that Elon Musk has done, is he's got like garage units. Mm-hmm. It's big battery packs you can put in your garage so you can, because and Tesla also has their
is that one of the things he stole from like one of his buddies too?
I don't know. It's a Tesla product. I don't know I don't know the origin of the actual. I mean, I don't know the origin of the specific engineering details of the product, but I do know that it's a
Tesla product. Yeah,
it's a Tesla product, and it's just like a thing you put in the corner of your garage. It's pretty big, but you put it in the corner of your garage. If you have the Tesla, it's part of their like roofing tile unit. They have their individual tiles. It's not like the big panels you get. It's just individual tiles that is your roof.
Yeah,
and so it's not on top of your roof. It replaces your shingles basically, and they're solar. And so like apparently the thing that's so cool about them to people that are in the know are that since it's 500 of these individual tiles, a couple get broken in a hailstorm or something like that. A, it's not a huge deal to fix them or to replace them, but B, 1 or 2 of them gets broken, doesn't shut your whole system down. Where if you have 3 or 4 of those big panels on your roof,
depending on where it broke in the circuit.
I don't know how the wiring works, but
right.
That's the pitch, at least, is that you have 100 of these on your roof.
Right, you're not replacing the whole panel.
Right, a couple of them get broken, it still works, and it's still producing a good amount of power. Where if you have a big panel or 3 panels that are the equivalent size, one of those panels breaks, you lose a third of your power.
Right. I mean, I would think at this point they'd be putting some kind of thin sheet of plexiglass over solar panels like that to stop any kind of things like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I
actually saw something the other day. I guess with the growth of solar panels, it's almost like it's like a big fan that's maybe 5 or 6 foot diameter. Because I guess an issue now with some of the solar panels are birds that are like perch on top of it or poop on top of it. So it's just kind of like this really thin rod that just kind of keeps spinning to keep birds from just like landing there. Yeah,
I didn't even think about that, but I can see that as an issue.
Yeah.
And then you have weird stuff like my house would be weird if I try to do solar panels. I have to put them on the front of my house.
Yeah, it depends on which way your house faces. But
it'd be ugly.
They have a lot more automated systems now.
Right, where they'll turn to face the sun while they're doing it and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. I would love if it got economical. Like I went down the rabbit hole about a year and a half ago. One of those companies called me and it's like, hey, there's incentives if you want to put solar panels on the roof. Right. It's like, we can work this out. So I went down the rabbit hole. It's like $45,000. Yeah. And they're like, yeah, but
your return on investment in 10 years. And you're like, ew.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, but okay. So you cut my power bill. Because they changed the laws on getting paid if you pump out. So you cannot pump into the grid, or you don't make any real money off it if you do.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, so if it works perfectly and I have no bill for power, it's $300 a month for however long it would take me.
I wonder if KUB would have any say over if, you had a unit that was producing more power than you used, and you actually hooked into your neighbors.
That's a good
and
question.
Took that excess and gave it to them to where they're buying less from the local utility.
I'm certain that they would figure out a way to have influence on that.
Wait, what are you doing? No, you can't give them power. We're trying to sell them power.
Yeah, I mean, we're already mad at you for not buying power from us as it stands.
Right.
We're certainly not going to be okay with you giving it to your neighbors or even sell. Like, could you sell it to your neighbors? You'd have to give it away. Maybe it'd be like game meat. You can give it away, but you can't sell it.
Yeah, it's weird. Somewhere like Brazil.
I mean, because that'd be a cool little thing. Like especially in some of these big HOA neighborhoods, which probably wouldn't let you put a solar panel up anyway. But if you have a good, strong neighborhood as a group, and everybody put a few panels in, and they all link together, and you could all power each other's houses and stuff like that, and you'd have backups and redundancies, and you could take the whole neighborhood off the grid. Yeah. KUB'd shit their pants, but it'd be a pretty cool like sales pitch for, hey, move into this neighborhood, you won't have a power bill.
Right.
Or even a neighborhood like you develop it that way. You develop it with like a small field. You keep a small field in the back corner of the development, and you put a solar farm back there.
I saw a story about a place down in Florida. I guess it was during last year's like hurricane season, or it might have been this year's hurricane season, that actually fared pretty well. And when a major one hit, I think it was around like Fort Myers area, but it was like a neighborhood that was a newer neighborhood that a bunch of the houses did have like battery backups and solar panels, and I guess they had upped their like stormwater drainage and kind of raised up in preparation for
so it was purpose-built.
A storm surge and
they
stuff.
planned it out.
Kind of, yeah.
I mean,
hey, we live on the coast in an area that
it's prone to this.
Right.
Let's see what can we do to prepare to be less impacted by it if we don't get hit directly. I mean, that's the thing with hurricanes. If you don't get hit directly, but the whole neighborhood or the whole city's out of power. But we didn't really get hit that hard, but the whole city's out, and we have to deal with those consequences too.
Right.
I mean, if I had the money to and I were building new, I would build a lot of stuff like that in. I would try to go off grid if I could. I mean, a lot
of it is that upfront cost and your kind of return on investment.
Yeah. Over time.
And again, that's kind of one of those things where we've been kind of kicking that can down the road where we could be a little bit more ahead of the ball on this.
Well, I mean, I just think but there is a perverse incentive from the governmental and utility side of it to not encourage that activity, even if it's the right thing. Like like you jokingly said just a second ago, like why would KUB not try to interfere with you not buying power from them?
No, I wonder if they actually could.
I mean, I would think they could. I would feel like they could.
I mean, I don't think they could really have much say over. You had a solar panel in your backyard, and you just wanted to like tie it into your neighbor's some kind of plug outside that they power their pool pump or something. Don't think they could have any say over you giving away something that you own that it's producing power, and you're just like, hey, I'm letting you plug into it. Be just like letting your neighbor run their extension cord to your house. I mean, well, I don't know. KUB's still getting their money on that. But if you had a solar panel outside that was connected directly to a plug,
I think the fire department and or the inspection office for electrical would have an issue with it.
Why?
If you just had an extension cord running out of your house across the top of your yard into somebody else's yard, can you legally bury it in your yard, in their yard?
Do you have to bury it?
I don't know. I don't think a fire marshal and or a home inspector would like an extension cord just running through a yard.
It's a temporary thing.
I mean, that could be your pitch and might be how you get away with it. I'm just saying ways for KUB to interfere would be, right. Well, they're breaking code. You can't have a loose electrical wire on the surface running across property lines. I mean, possible. I'm just saying, like that would be, that would be my guess at an avenue that they could take to try to dismantle that idea. I mean, like, could I, since my septic system broke down, could I bury my house drain line into my neighbor's septic system with if we agreed on it as neighbors? Would the state or the city have anything, or KUB or whomever have anything to say about that? I mean, the state already told me what I can do since my septic system failed, so I already know the answer to it.
Well, they just said you had to replace it.
I can't replace it. They said I can't replace it. If I have access to sewage, I have to hook up to it.
Yeah, that's right.
And so, I mean, they can tell me I have to do that. So I would guess that there's something similar, because that's KUB. That's the state enforcing KUB's right to take my shit. Literally. I'm proud of that turn of phrase. That was good. I like that. I like that a lot. So anyway, big elections on. We'll see. I can't wait. Can't wait. I love the bullshit and hearing everybody talk about the shit that they can't do anything about and getting the voters all excited about stuff. Started a new podcast that Mrs. turned me on to. It's the witch hunt of J.K. Rowling. It's pretty interesting.
People going after?
Again, yeah. You didn't hear about this? More recent stuff?
Nah.
Yeah, so I mean, like initially, and I'd forgotten about it, and this is where we were kids. We were like, I guess, middle school, high school age when the Harry Potter series started coming out. It's early 90s.
Right.
And I do remember, very similar to the current book banning crazy that's happening now over the Harry Potter series. I do remember some of that stuff going on.
I remember a little bit. Seems like
anti-Christian. The Harry Potter series, Harry Potter as a property, and I don't know how they do the math. Maybe since there's 7 books, it gets it multiplied. Is on like the top 10 list of banned books in the history of the United States.
Really?
Yeah. Again, on the weird definition of banning, or on the current definition of banning, because it's one of those that, like, it was one of those people going to school board meetings. I don't want my kids to have access to this book in your library, and so like school boards were putting it like some of the middle ground solutions at play were, well, it'd be behind the librarian's desk. A kid could ask for it. The librarian would make sure the parents are permitting it before they would give it to the kid. But again, point being is that, like, and so that was phase 1 because, you know, dark arts and witches and all that kind of stuff. They're trying to turn our kids into witches and ghouls, and they're trying to normalize blood sucking and all the weird little this, that, and the others that's in there. And so that was similar to the current, you know, hard right evangelical crazy that's going on with book banning now. But then a couple of years ago, Miss J.K. put a couple of tweets out, basically taking issue with some of the trans movement in kind of the Caitlyn Jenner issue. It was like, well, how do you have a human that was a man a year ago be the woman of the year? Because J.K. apparently she considers herself fairly liberal and a feminist. And so there is a whole subset of feminism right now that really doesn't like the trans movement because you're not women. We've been working for decades to get women up to par and to be part of the normal society and not be some subset of society that have been treated differently because they're women and this, that, and the other. And now you have all these trans people coming in and kind of curtailing all the feminist movement. And so JK made a...
How was it? Never mind, sorry, go ahead.
And so basically JK made some tweets along those lines where it's like, you know, the idea of having... you know, again, it's some of the stuff along lines like the this was pre this particular incident, but there's that swimmer that's going around right now that's got a bunch of heat, that's winning a bunch of these female NCAA.
I thought that happened like 2 years ago, and it stopped like 2 years ago.
Right, but
right after it happened.
I'm using that as the example of
Gotcha.
It's an instance like that JK was referencing this, but this was like in 2017, 18, or 19 or something like that, and so she got a bunch of hate and was called to get canceled from the left. And so it's just kind of this weird, like somehow she found herself in this weird middle ground of spending a whole bunch of her career defending herself against the right, trying to ban her work, to now trying to defend herself against the left, who's trying to ban her existence because she is not on board with the 100% trans ideology that they're asking her to be. It's interesting. It's just the way and it's the nuance of the way that a villain in a story can change phases, I guess, is the way. Like if you put her as the protagonist of the story, the way that the villains in her life have shifted, it's really it's interesting. So I guess so far I'm only halfway through it, so I don't know. I still got more to go, but it's really interesting. And she's in it. Like I didn't expect her. Like when I first started listening to it, I mean it's a pro podcast. Don't get me wrong, but like the lady doing it, she's like. She's like, so I sent a letter to her to her office or to her P.O. box or whatever that you find on her website or something like that. And to my surprise, I got a letter back saying, "Sure, I'll do your podcast." And she's like, so she's in her house in Scotland doing this podcast for the majority of it.
Interesting.
It is quite interesting. It's a weird world we live in. And it's well, at least on the current episode that I'm on, and I guess maybe the reason I bring it up is it's kind of explains some of the history of how social media's input on real world culture happened, and it's kind of interesting. It's kind of stuff that I kind of I understood that I knew it, but I didn't understand it, maybe kind of stuff. And so it's basically like the pockets that get created in some of these different social media spheres, and then they get shifted into others. And so really what the hypothesis that they come to is that you had, I think it's Rumble and 4chan, and which were like polar opposites as far as like social media groups, where 4chan was just to be as offensive and nonconformist as possible about everything, where Rumble was more of the uber inclusive, the overly inclusive, the super sensitive to every, like the 73 genders.
Never heard of Rumble.
Yeah, and so, and then, but apparently, like the way they trace it out is that these groups kind of had their own little insular things where they were all encouraging others in their own ways, and so it's like this oversensitivity, over identification, where it's like you can identify as a cat, man, queer, something, and it's just like super, like your identity is so perfectly unique that you're the only one of this combination of identifying factors as in discussion, and that everybody loved you for it, and it was all that. And then you had 4chan over here, which was the crazy polar opposite, and then those two some of the subsets of those groups end up in Twitter, and that's where the
X.
it's still Twitter at the time. I'm dead naming X. Bad joke. And so as they made their way into Twitter was where the politicians and the media were hanging out. And so you have these groups that start getting in these arguments and fights on Twitter over this stuff, and they start getting traction with the way the Twitter algorithm works, and it ends up on a New York Times editor's Twitter feed.
Right. Some people were talking about it's trending.
Right. And so they start looking into it, and so they start running these stories that they're getting out of these weird little tiny cultures within, and then now all of a sudden these tiny cultures are having huge impact on the total culture, and it's fascinatingly scary to kind of think back on the history of how we got to where we are in this super polarized social world that we live in now, and how impactful. I mean, how truly impactful it's come. I mean, it has, to the extent of just like how we discuss Israel and the state of Israel, Palestine, and all that kind of crap that's going on right now is supremely impacted by what has happened in the history of the social media spheres. Yeah. And it's changed the way we do it. And I would argue probably not for the better.
I would agree.
Because I think the way the politics has reacted to it, I think is the biggest problem.
I think part of that, I'd like to say it's kind of laid bare the ability of the social media to influence people without people having that kind of like second thought of let me think about what I just read. And just taking everything at face value as it is.
Right. Because we were used to that.
But I saw it got, resubmitted by somebody else. So it's got to be true.
Right.
They wouldn't retweet it if it wasn't factual.
Right. I mean, I agree. Our skeptic brains were not prepared for this much information in that short period of time.
Right.
Our ability to be skeptical about everything we see just can't keep up by any stretch. But it also, I mean, I don't know. The internet has its pros and cons, I guess.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, there's certainly, I don't know. It certainly has exposed a lot of problems that we didn't get to see, that weren't allowed to be talked about, because there was some control over the narrative through the 3 news organizations or 4 news organizations we had or whatever.
Okay.
I'm not saying that there was somebody controlling them, but what they bothered writing or doing stories on was the stories we got.
That was the only news sources we had?
As far as a collective national source, yeah, pretty much. I mean, we had our national newspapers and we had our national news stations. I don't know,
okay.
When
since when?
Since pre-internet. So I'm talking about, it was like before the internet came along and started, which again runs into the problem of, do I take your word for it because you say you were there versus this is what the news is telling me it was? They both have their own issues, but before it was just whatever the news told me it was, or if I happen to know somebody that was there at said event or whatever. It's I mean, I don't know. When you think back to when we were in elementary school, 4th grade, if I recall correctly, was the Rodney King trial, or the Rodney King police officer trial. and then the riots and all that followed. Like, how did you perceive that at the time versus how you perceive it now with the more information that you've learned since?
Don't remember a whole lot about it in 4th or 5th grade. I think I remember seeing the news stories about when the video got released, but
I mean, I don't remember understanding most of it. Period.
Yeah.
But that's why I don't know why that's an example that just came to head, because for some reason I remember maybe it was OJ. It was the white.
I remember seeing the video. I don't recall seeing a whole lot of news on the riots outside of like the main day of. I don't remember seeing it the main day of, but I don't remember a large focus on it, for like weeks on end.
Right. No, it wasn't. I mean, because even then, that was back when we were in elementary school, that was like cable news. Or that was the very early days of cable news, if cable news was around yet.
Yeah. I think CNN was a thing.
Right, but we didn't have, the 4 channels of cable news, that 24-hour news cycle craziness either. So I don't know. I guess I don't know why I picked that example. It's just one that came to mind because I know it was from that era. I guess to me, George Floyd was a repeat of that story. And I think the way that we have interacted as a society and the way we've consumed our media on it has completely changed. I don't know that a CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News would have covered the story the way they covered it had we not had access to 1,000 other versions and 1,000 other people telling us what happened there.
I mean, there were others, and I'm not really sure why the George Floyd thing took off as much as it did, if it was just because of the wide breadth of the internet, social media had become, like Trayvon Martin and things
right. I think there were other ones
before.
Right. I think those other ones were big too, but I think the pandemic is why I think because we were full on pandemic at the time, and we were all on our, we were all in the. I mean, that was what George Floyd was. What, May of that year? June of 2020.
Possibly, I can't remember exactly.
It was early on when the pandemic was full on. I do remember it was that.
Yeah. Because
that was when the weirdism and people were starting to be like, well, people are out here, that's when the Black Lives Matter movement was out there going crazy doing their shit. And it's like, I thought we were in a pandemic. I'm not saying you should stop them. I'm saying, like, what happened to the pandemic? It's okay to congregate and get pissed off about this thing. But we're supposed to be in a pandemic right now where we're telling us to stay in our homes. That's a safe place to be. Which it's also right. You should probably stay home and lock down the doors too. But
so other parts of it, I don't want to go back into the pandemic.
I don't really either. I'm just saying.
There's always lockdowns, and I'm like, I was never really locked down. I don't know. There were other parts of the country that were for short periods.
I mean,
of time.
I didn't miss a day of work. Like, nothing changed for me. Period.
Yeah.
I mean,
I got furloughed for a couple months, but that was about it.
I say that. I mean, the kids are out of school. I didn't stop working, but I was a grocery adjacent employee, and so I needed to do my job. So the grocery store said what you needed to go get.
How long were they out of school for? How long were they doing the virtual learning? Would you say?
We did the rest of that year because it was spring break that year. When it got to the States, it was in spring. We were on spring break, like we were literally on spring break in the hotel, and nobody knew what was going on. The hotel got all weird. Like, they shut the restaurant down in the hotel, but they left the hotel. Like, we were still allowed to stay in our rooms and still allowed to go to the water park that was attached to our hotel, but we were the restaurant closed, and so we had to go, had to go to the grocery store and buy stuff and make it in our room. We couldn't use the stuff in the place, but we could still play in the pool with the other people and the kids. It was weird, but that was during spring break when that all went down, and then we didn't come back from spring break. We got back home, and they said, school's out for an indeterminate period of time, and then a couple weeks later, we're not coming back for the rest of the year, and so we just took the rest of that year off. And then it was full masks the next full year with virtual options and a bunch of random days that they just did virtual days. And then it was most of the next year in full mask because of that lawsuit we had. Anyway, we didn't want to go back to the pandemic. The point I was getting to is that I think the George Floyd case got an extra bump in attention because we were in the pandemic. But I think my point, I guess, was that there was a lot more wrong, incorrect, inaccurate, factually false, but also a lot more true and accurate and verifiably more nuanced coverage of that situation than I think I would guess. I don't remember because I was a kid, but I would guess that we had of the Rodney King incident.
Yeah.
Because we had a million sources. Some of them bad sources, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say that every source is a good source, but I'm just trying to say we had a lot more sources that were coming up, and we're trying to get more information out about the particular event. And I think, again, because of the pandemic, people had more time to consume said informations than they would have otherwise if they'd been working and doing their normal lives, depending on who you were and where you were.
Did you see Giuliani got... Well, I guess he'd already been found guilty. I guess they finally... I guess it was a jury trial for deciding damages. It's like $143 million.
Yeah. What did he do?
Huh?
Which one? What did he do? I forgot.
Oh, this was his... Basically blaming a mother-daughter for all this election corruption. Basically ruined their lives, saying that they had stolen the election in Georgia. They'd hidden all these boxes and changed votes. And
okay, I do remember a little bit of that. Yeah. So that's the Atlanta specific one, or is that a federal case?
It was pretty sure it was a federal case, but I think it was out of Georgia.
Got it.
It might have just been state, which semi-federal, I guess.
Well, but it depends on, if Trump gets elected, he can't pardon Giuliani if he's...
Yeah.
Or he can't...
No, I think this is a civil trial.
Oh.
I think that, I think this was them suing Giuliani for
defamation or whatever.
Yeah, basically.
Got it. No, I didn't catch that one. I did see that the Republicans are moving ahead with a impeachment inquiry.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know why anymore. I don't even care why. It doesn't matter. It was going to happen.
Placate some of the base, and they can say they tried to do something. I think it's kind of a double-edged sword that, if nothing does go through, they can just keep harping on like, it's because there's such a corrupt state and they would never let us win, instead of being like, we couldn't find anything.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't even remember what the charges are. I mean, if it's, I know, I know at least at some point there was conversation about.
Seems like they're tying a lot more of shit that his son did to him.
Right. Which, if it's true, I mean, it deserves an inquiry, I suppose. But I guess we don't find out if it's true or not if we don't do an inquiry. But I don't know. I don't know what. I don't know what level of proof should be brought forth.
Inquiring for a year and a half. And you think they could find something?
Yeah, you think
that they wanted? I would think if they had something, they would have put it out by now. And we got to dig deeper.
Yeah, but you'd think that they would do it on some level of like honesty and truth and justice, as opposed to, well, it's a little better political timing right now than it would have been to do it.
I mean,
a year ago,
Biden has released his taxes multiple times.
I follow. Sure, that's not the point. The point is that it's that timing is part of their decision making in doing these things as much as it is, if it is truth or justice in the first place. They want to do it it's for the political timing as much as it is any shred of justice. I guess that's the point I'm trying to get to. Even if it was okay, let me rephrase that. Even if it was 100% true and verifiably true, and they knew they had the evidence in place, they're still politicians, and so they're going to do it to their political advantage, not just do it. You know what I'm saying?
I guess kind of.
Like, they could have done it, I mean, it goes the same thing with the Department of Justice in the Trump situation. A lot of these cases could have been done a year ago, 2 years ago at this point. It's hard for me to believe that there is not some political aspect to the timing of some of this. It shouldn't take this long on some of these cases. Some of these cases I get, that there's complicated matters on how they got the different evidence together to even bring charges against Trump, but plenty of them also seem like they could have done it a year ago. What were they waiting on?
A lot of these cases have been going on for multiple years.
Well, investigations have been going on, but,
no, I mean, like the I mean, it's not just Clifford Storby Daniels. There was another one. I can't remember the other person's name. But, I mean, that's been going on for 4 or 5 years, back and forth.
That was one of the civil cases. I'm talking about one.
Well, no, I mean, that was. I think that was like election as well, because he was using campaign money to either pay them off and also pay for legal fees against
paying them off or
paying them off and appealing and trying to sue them for defamation and et cetera.
Yeah, I don't know.
mean, the documents thing didn't come to fruition until they actually came out and took the documents. Was it last summer? But that had started.
No, that was like, when was that? I want to say it was like January, February this year. Or was it the summer before that?
They raided Mar-a-Lago, I think, last summer. Or not this most recent summer, sorry.
22.
Summer of 2022.
Right.
But they'd been trying to get documents
from the day
6 and 9 months prior.
Right. But okay, I mean, that's a good example. So to me, that case has a smoking gun. There's no question that he took it, and there's no question that he refused to give it back. There's no question that he tried to hide it in order to not give it back. Now,
to you and I, yes, but they're splitting legal hairs as far as
your timeline. Right, I get that, but to your timeline, the evidence was in place to make a case in the summer of 22, and they didn't actually bring the indictment on that case until. Have they even officially brought that indictment up yet?
Yeah.
Okay. But that was a couple months ago? Maybe a year after the raid? It seems like a long time.
I would say that I think the indictment's been in place for at least 9 months to a year.
But the case has not been resolved yet. And I know that's the Trump team delaying on purpose. Don't get me wrong. I understand that that's part of their strategy is to delay the shit out of this.
Part of the federal legal system.
I don't know. I feel like it's taken way too long.
Where you have multiple trials. You kind of have your pre-trial, and then there was that whole back and forth with the judge in Florida that wanted to appoint a special master, and then the federal prosecutor had to kick it up to a higher court to take away that rule. I think it had to go to like a 3-judge panel that was out of like Atlanta that basically said that the judge in Florida overstepped her bounds by appointing a special master, and she shouldn't have done that in the first place. It's a lot of it. Even if you have like one little ruling, all of a sudden that ruling gets appealed before you can kind of like keep furthering.
It's
a
mess. It's taking too long. It's driving me crazy.
It's taking too long, but it's kind of the good and bad side of the legal system. Because it's not rushed, but at the same time, it can seem like it's kind of going back and forth.
I don't know. Again, I don't know how to argue a comparable because you'd have to be the president to have the specific things that he did to get indicted for. But no, that's not true. You had the dude out of Virginia, the reservist, that leaked.
He was in the news recently. I'm trying to remember.
That leaked documents. That case was open and shut within like a month.
I don't think he's gone to trial yet. I want to say like the Army Reserve or whatever branch it was, like just fired or just came out with a report saying they fired like 15 people. Or I think they came out with a report, and I think as part of that, in the course of, I don't think they just got fired, but they had
found a ton of other people that had been stealing shit.
But since that happened, they've fired 15 people that were kind of a part of that, as far as like superiors that
knew about it or should have known about it, or weren't.
Apparently, he'd been like warned once when they were like, "Hey, what the hell are you making photocopies of?"
Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. It's a crazy world. I don't like it. All right, man, get to work. We promised a short show, and we lied.
Loading. Oh, all right, let's see a good one. Oh, got a bronze hat missing from Abraham Lincoln statue in Kentucky.
Damn.
No.
Why is there... Oh, yeah, he's from Kentucky. That's right. So why there's an Abraham statue in Kentucky?
So someone stole the hat from the sculpture. It had been strong and determined to pry bronze from a base. Good grief, his post said. The online report has been filed with the department, and they are asking anyone with information to call the anonymous tip line The 12-foot statue of Lincoln, sitting on a rock looking out at the Ohio River, was dedicated in 2009. Top hat rested on a rock beside the former president, who was born in rural Kentucky.
So it's not okay. So it wasn't on his head.
That's what I was kind of wondering. Yeah, I guess maybe
it sounds like it was sitting next to him.
Still would have thought it was like welded to the rock.
I would think so too, but
yeah,
you also said 12-foot statue, and so it's not only did you get the hat off his head, you got 12 feet up in the air to do it. That's impressive. But it seems like it was down on the base and probably touch it from the ground, at least if you're a reasonable height. Is that it? That's the best you got?
It's kind of a weird one. I saw this headline the other day. Russian man who flew on Los Angeles flight without passport or ticket charged with federal crime. He flew on a plane from Denmark to L.A. in November without a passport or ticket, told U.S. authorities he did not remember how he got through security in Europe, according to a federal complaint filed by the FBI.
He didn't... Okay. Sorry, that was worded weird. It sounded like he flew himself, the way that read when he first said it.
He was a passenger that flew on a plane.
I get it. I'm just saying when you were reading it, it's like he flew from Denmark to Kentucky, or to L.A.
Yeah.
It sounded like he, got in a little Cessna and flew it by himself.
I couldn't find him on the flight manifest or any incoming international flights. He was charged with being a stowaway on an aircraft and pleaded not guilty.
I mean, it brings questions to the Denmark airport security system and or the ticketing thingy. I mean, he sounds like a stowaway. I mean, he snuck on for at least as far as we can tell.
Yeah. Like, we have no record of you actually, having a ticket or being on this plane.
He just got on.
But you're on the plane.
He just got in line and got on the plane.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. It's a federal crime? I mean, I would guess it's an immigration violation as far as you don't have...
Yeah.
Depending on where you're from, you have to have a certain paperwork to enter the country legally. Fair enough. Sorry, dude. I don't know what to tell you. They'll probably send you back to Denmark or Russia. I don't know what the rule is like on a deportation. You send them back to their... Was he a Danish resident?
I thought it said he was a Russian citizen.
Okay, because it's
but
not...
the flight went from Denmark to...
Right. That's what I was confused about, is that, because he could be a Russian person living in Denmark.
Right.
I don't know. Anyway, weird stuff. Like I said, we promised a short show, and we didn't. Because we got to talking about solar panels and elections and no growth Knoxville. That's the catchphrase. I like it. I'm going to stick with it. No growth Knoxville. Here we go. Go out and get your go to our Patreon page and you can order a sticker. I'll make some stickers. I don't have a Patreon page either. So anyway, almostagreement at gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Go to the website almostagreement.com. I might make a silly graphic for no growth Knoxville. And happy Hanukkah to those who celebrate out there. We've got Christmas coming up and past tense. I don't know. It's the holiday season. Enjoy with the holidays however you enjoy the holidays, and we will do the same. Have a great week, everybody. We'll talk to you all soon.